Okay, hello. Today we're going to be doing a reading on the article Assembling the Fitbit Subject. I found a Foucauldian-sociomaterialist examination of social class, gender, and self-surveillance on Fitbit community message boards. This article has been written by Katelyn, Esmonde, and Shannon, Jette. Okay, we'll start with the abstract. The rise of fitness tracking devices, such as the Fitbit, and personal health and wellness is emblematic to the use of data-gathering health fitness technologies by institutions to create a surveillance regime. Using postings on Fitbit community message boards in the theoretical frames of Michael Foucault and social materialist scholars, the goal of this article is to analyze the experiences of those who choose to self-track using a Fitbit and the constellation of barriers and facilitators, both human and non-human, related to social class and gender that enable and constrain one's ability to use a Fitbit as intended. First, we examine the social class assumptions on Fitbit as a use management tool in the workplace, illustrating what elements must come together, both human and non-human, to create an environment that enables walking through the workday to combat the risks of sedentary work. Secondly, we explain the ways that Fitbit users confess their past inactivity and how gendered home labor differently enables and constrains some of the users' abilities to act on their confessions. Hello, we're just going through an article right now. I'm partway through the abstract, and as you can tell by the title, we're going to be discussing Fitbits and the impact on their users, especially regarding the community boards surrounding it. Okay. Ultimately, one's ability to engage with the idealized use of the Fitbit in the minds of its users, or what we term as the Fitbit subject assemblage, is structured by numerous material and social factors that must be taken into account when examining the mechanics of power in fitness tracking. Okay, I'm going to move on to the first. I think this is the first paragraph. Yep, this is the first paragraph. In the fall of 2015, Oral Roberts University in Oklahoma began requiring students to wear a Fitbit, a wearable technology that tracks steps taken, calories consumed, and distance walked, and more. The data from these Fitbits is directly sent to the school's grading system. As students are expected to meet the standard 20,000 steps per day, as well as 150 minutes of physical activity per week. As a part of its whole person physiology, mind and body and spirit approach to education. In the same year, the US retailer Target gave a Fitbit Zip device to all 335,000 employees to encourage more physical activity and thus improved health. Significantly, these forms of health surveillance, whether they are taken up as a part of institutional experience or as a private activity, are a part of what Lupton in 2016 refers to as data surveillance, or the practice of watching people using data-generating technologies. While the use of technologies of surveillance by those wishing to enhance their physical fitness, health, and beauty are not new, what is new here is the ability of data surveillance technologies to gather considerable amounts of information about people in even more intimate spheres of their lives, helping users in their efforts to track calories consumed and calories expended throughout exercise, under the watchful gaze of themselves and or others. These self-tracking devices operate within a neoliberal climate to produce responsible consumers who do not rely on the state to ensure their health or well-being, particularly in the light of the perceived obesity epidemic, and social, political, and economic environments of neoliberal self-responsibilization. Body weight is assumed to directly reflect one's health as well as one's personal lifestyle and commitments to not only be healthy, but to further conform to dominant beauty ideals. Sorry, I'm messing up quite a bit. Dominant beauty ideals, as well as self-surveillance becoming a moral manner, as taking responsibility for your own health and self-monitoring is expected for those who do not want to be a burden to the rest of society, due to what is perceived as a costly medical condition. These considerations lead us to a series of questions. In what ways can Fitbits be said to contribute to the creation of surveillance regimes? What kind of social controls does this technology support and give rise to? How do people use these technologies experience the surveillance? While our opening examples point to the forced use of fitness trackers, in this article, we look into those who appear to have voluntarily purchased these tracking devices so as to monitor their health and fitness statistics for their own purposes. In particular, we study online discussions by the subject of enthusiastic Fitbit users who post on Fitbit community message boards about their health and fitness. Such as individuals and their Fitbits are a part of the quantified self movement, and they're more generally used for academics, which academics described as the part of the sorry, I keep repeating the same line over and over again. Are part of the quantified self movement, more generally, which academics describe as the broader practice of monitoring, measuring, and recording elements of one's body and life as a form of self-improvement or self-reflection. In this article, we combine insights from actor network theory and Foucauldian scholarship to explore the constellations of actors, human and non-human, and discursive, that make up a Fitbit user. When we use the term Fitbit subject assemblage to describe the expected identity of a Fitbit user as constructed through the complex assemblage of discourses, desire, technology, digital technologies, and a range of other human and non-human actors, the concept of the Fitbit subject assemblage emphasizes the expectations of personal responsibility with regard to health, the behavioral modifications that are associated with Fitbit usage, and the assemblage of humans and non-humans that come together to produce Fitbit use. Idealized Fitbit subjects take walks or engage in other activities throughout the day to increase their step count, always reach at least 10,000 steps, and prioritize their health through an engagement of health-minimizing behaviors. The goal of this article is to assemble the Fitbit subjects to look at the bodies of the Fitbit users to explore how it is that discourses, materials, technologies, and environments come together to produce Fitbit use. Recognizing that the Fitbit subject assemblage is far from discursively or materially stable. Discursively and materially stable? Okay. We consider two contexts in which Fitbits and the expectations for the users are directly invoked: in the workplace and in confessions of becoming overweight and physically inactive. This research extends theorizations of the materiality. There we go. This research extends theorizations of the materiality of health, fitness, and the QS, or quantization of the self, in several ways. First, it builds up on previous attempts to theorize Foucault alongside social materialisms and new materialisms, health and technology. Second, this article examines the role of social class and gender in use of fitness tracking devices, a topic that has been previously under-theorized. In doing so, it contributes to the discussion within science and technology studies as to how to theorize the social. While Litter cautions against a foundational sociology that draws upon social categories such as gender, race, or class, In order to explain the phenomena, we enumerate in specific material ways that the social class and gender are entangled with users' interactions with Fitbit devices. In other words, gender, race, and class are effects of these material assemblages of power, rather than pre-given structures. The categories of class and gender that we explore are understood to be events and encounters between discourses, practices, human and non-humans, such as following Haraway, 1997, instead of seeing social class and gender as black boxes of power that impact pre-existing groups, we seek to open and explore their inner workings to understand how they are constituted through the use of Fitbit. We begin this article by describing the theoretical approaches of Michael Foucault, as well as the work of social materialist scholars who have extended Foucault's approach. Next, we describe the methods of this article, whereby we utilize Fitbit community message boards to explore how Fitbit users describe their experiences. In the presentation of findings, we first discuss the positioning of a Fitbit as a risk management tool in the workplace, illustrating what elements must come together, both human and non-human, to create an environment that enables walking throughout the workday to combat the risks of sedentary work. We further analyze how the idealized Fitbit subject assemblage is productive of a privileged class identity, whereby a Fitbit user has autonomy and flexibility within the white-collar workplace. Second, we explore the ways that Fitbit users confess to their past activity and how gendered home labor differently enables the constraints of some of the users' abilities to act on these confessions. We consider how Fitbit use produces the gendered network effects of examining exercise as a third shift of expected physical fitness, labor for women. We also analyze how posters on these message boards experience these gender forms of surveillance with these Fitbits. Ultimately, one's ability to engage in the idealized way of the Fitbit, or what we use the term Fitbit subject assemblage, is structured by numerous material and social factors that must be taken into account when examining the mechanics of power and fitness tracking. Sorry, I'm just going to turn off my phone because it's causing me a lot of annoyances. Okay, just give me a second. There we go. Okay, moving on to the next page. I'm guessing that we just read through the introduction. So this first paragraph is called Theoretical Framework, Foucault, Surveillance, and Power. The work of Michael Foucault is utilized extensively within critical public health, as well as examinations of the quantified self. Foucault's work illustrates a shift in the governance of the citizenry from the exercise of power over death to power over life. From the exercise of power over death to power over life. There we go. From repressive, centralized power to productive forms of what he terms biopower. Biopower, the subjection of bodies and the control of the populations, is exercised to encourage citizenry to take up dominant beliefs that the right ways to live one's life and manage one's surveillance is an integral part of the exercise of biopower. As people under surveillance often accept and internalize dominant beliefs, particularly health-related expectations around normality, and extending the era of chronic disease epidemiology. The notion that even a healthy individual is potentially at risk of ill health and must manage this risk. The embodiment of these networks of power is also apparent in what Foucault describes as the modern confessional, whereby the priest as the confessor is replaced with experts such as psychiatrists and medical practitioners. Hello, new person. I'm reading through an article on Fitbits and the type of activity that we see on their message boards in conjunction with expectations around what it is to be a healthy person in society that sort of thing. Hello, thank you for the follow. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm going to continue reading. Okay. Okay. It is as though these confessions that truth are always an effective power. Is society doomed or not? According to this article, maybe. We don't know. We don't know. Fitbits are destroying society. We need to find out why, apparently. I don't know. It's an interesting article on Fitbits and like how we can analyze social behavior surrounding them and whether it's a positive thing or not. And according to this article, it's not very positive, especially since you have some people which are in a position to have more time during their day to fulfill like their obligations of, you know, the 10,000 step quota, which other people might not because of their position and that sort of thing. Okay, so at the moment we're talking about how these confessions sort of act as a hello, other person. We're sort of talking about how we're talking about these community boards as sort of like confession booths, in the way that people confess that, oh, I haven't been as active as usual. I'm going to get back into it though. Or you get the second kind of person, which is like expressing, oh, I've done really well. I've made so much progress. And what kind of impact that has on the other people who visit that kind of confession board, and what it means for like general people using the app and the expectations they have surrounding it, whether they're increased or decreased. It's very fluctuational. So I'm going to continue reading about what it means to have a community board sort of operate as a confession booth of sorts for physical health. Okay. It's as though these confessions, that truths, which are always an effective power, are established about ourselves. Extending these insights, Rail has described the obesity profession, the obesity confessional. First, fat subjects confess their obesity to an authorized confessor, such as a fitness coach or a clinician. Second, the expert draws on the dominant obesity discourse to understand the truths of the obese subject. Finally, the expert provides a path forward for the obese subject to live on in a non-obese life. An important part of the obesity confession is that words are not often required to confess at all. Instead, the body confesses its sins as it is assumed that fatness is inherently the product of poor health choices. Okay, so yeah, this sort of looks at this way that Fitbit always assumes that being overweight is bad and that it's all your fault. And two, you can always make it better with diet and exercise, because it takes on this very fundamental belief that that's the only factor that you need to focus on. It is a factor, but not the only factor. Okay. Foucault has described the practices that people engage in to become subjects within power relations as technologies of the self. These technologies are practices and techniques performed on their own bodies, souls, thoughts, conduct, and way of being, as to transform themselves into attain a certain state of happiness, purity, wisdom, perfection, or immortality. Technologies of the self are an important role of subjectification, whereby humans become to align themselves with particular identities or categories within power relationships. We utilize these insights to theorize how Fitbit users are expected to improve upon these bodies using the surveillance of Fitbit. Okay, the next part of the paragraph. More recently, Fitbit's health scholars have called for the de-centering of humans and human agency in health and fitness research. Building on the work of social materialist theorists such as Latour, Deleuze, and Guattari, Haraway, and Barad, these scholars argue that the role of the material, the non-human, in social life must be considered with agency as the ability to make some difference to a state of affairs, rather than to consciously exert one's will, and the number of actors can expand considerably beyond humans. Deleuze, Guattari, and concepts of assemblage or web relationships between humans, non-humans, practices, ideas, and discourses has been a useful one for scholars seeking to characterize relationships between humans and non-humans, or moving beyond object-subject binaries. In Deleuzian thinking, assemblages can also be considered desiring machines, where desire is a productive, effective force that connects, entangles, and is always becoming. This concept highlights that actors do not act alone, but through connections and complex relationships with other actors. The notion of allies is also helpful here, because it emphasizes that becoming is an entangled and never-ending process that relies on the interconnected networks of humans and non-humans. It is through these allies that a Fitbit, for example, can come into being. Assemblage and other social materialist concepts are particularly relevant for studies of the interaction between humans and technological devices like Fitbits that can act by shaping people's activities, experiences, and understandings of their bodies. Drawing on these insights about the need to decenter humans in health research, we argue that Foucault's focus on power of relationships should not be limited to people, as they have power relationships with things as well in particular. Sorry, I read that very, very poorly. As we have power relationships with things as well, in particular, we look at Lemek's discussion of Foucault's concept of the government of things as a way of bringing the materiality of power into focus within Foucauldian theory. Foucauldian theory? Yep. Foucauldian theory. This drawing on Foucault's essay on governmentality, Lemek takes a starting point at conceptualization of power as it is dispersed throughout a complex composed of men and things to achieve a common good. Foucault suggests that this relation is not dissimilar to governing a ship, where one must govern both the sailors in the boat and its cargo, and the conditions at sea, and so on. Lemek writes, government is not interactions between two stable and fixed entities, humans and things. Rather, Foucault employs a relational approach whereby humans and things are intertwined in the act of government. Thus, because the government of things takes on account the interrelations between humans and non-humans, it can allow us to move beyond biopolitics as the government of humans only, a move that we make through our analysis of the Fitbit discussion boards. We use the Foucauldian and socio-materialist theories that can shed light on the materiality of health and how humans rely on non-humans to work towards a healthy lifestyle, while taking into account discourses of beauty, personal responsibility, and health. Social materialisms provide a framework for thinking through more specifically how this diffuse power operates through practices, discourses, humans, and non-humans. Okay, and that's the end of the first paragraph. Moving on to the next paragraph called methods, which I think is just going to be about the method of study which they're going to use. Okay. To study Fitbit wearers' experiences of surveillance, and the quantization of the self, we look to online communities where commenters converse about topics of mutual interest. We focus on the forum of Fitbit community message boards, the one in particular titled Get Moving, which as of the 12th of May 2017 has almost 3,000 discussion threads on physical activity and lifestyle. The Get Moving forum asks users, how will you find your fit today? Discover workout ideas and share your progress. This project developed through the mutual interests of the authors of Self-Tracking Surveillance and Discipline. We have previously examined the ways in which quantification and self-tracking have been utilized within physical education. Leading to the current project wherein we explore how Fitbit wearers discuss their private self-tracking practices. Under the assumption that topics with more engagement in the form of replies on the initial post had resonated with the greatest number of users, the first author sorted through the posts for each year to determine the posts with the most replies of 12th of May 2017. For each of the 5 years that the Get Moving forums have been utilized, she selected the 5 discussion threads with the greatest number of replies, creating a sample of 25 discussion threads. Within the sample, 25 discussion threads were analyzed in the initial post for each topic, as well as the first 10 replies of the initial post, for a total of 11 posts per discussion thread, and 275 posts total. Some posts were quite lengthy, over 200 words, while the minority were 1 sentence or less. Overall, these posts provide a window into these conversations, while demographic information of the posters on the message boards is difficult to ascertain, as the majority of posters did not allude to it in their profile. It is worth noting that the fitness tracker users tend to skew female, to be in the high income bracket, and to be between the ages of 35 to 54 years. When users discuss their geographical location, it appears that most were based in the United States, Canada, or Britain. The study follows established ethical procedures for open-sourced online research. Following Esmonde and Till in 2001, we judged the posts on the Fitbit forum that can be considered public rather than private, based on the 3 criteria. First, one does not have to register with the site to read the forum. Second, there are a large number of members, over 1,000, making it unlikely that posts were discovered confidential or private. And third, it is unlikely that the members perceive the site to be private, given that there are over 30,000 topic threads as of October 2017, with over 30,000 topic threads. The community posting we focus upon is quite large for an internet forum. This research is not deemed to be human subject research in need of oversight by the university's institution review board, and therefore consent is not obtained from the posters of the message boards. Nonetheless, all posts of this article are devoid from identifying information, and all forum posters' names have been anonymized. Throughout this process, the role of the workplace, as well as home labor and fitness weight management, was identified as important sites within the data. More specifically, we considered how the workplace structures one freedom to walk throughout the day, as well as how gender shapes one's work at home and thus time for exercise. Theoretical sensitivities of the authors were inclined towards Foucauldian theories, as well as social materialist theories, shaped the way that these findings were developed and theoretically interpreted. Okay, that's the end of the second paragraph. The next paragraph is called Finding Social Class, Gender, and Fitbit Self-Surveillance. Okay, I think I might be back in a minute because I need to fill up my water bottle. And yeah, I don't think I could last that much longer without proper hydration. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I have returned with water. Okay. The next paragraph is called Findings, Social Class, Gender, and the Fitbit Self-Surveillance. Our findings illustrate two major topics that were addressed by the posters on the Fitbit community message boards. First, the ways that Fitbit's subject assemblage aligns more closely with the white-collar and middle-class paid workforce are assessed. We align how posters on the message boards respond to risk discourse related to sedentary behavior in the workplace, and the numerous human and non-human actors that come together to allow them to respond to these discourses through the workplace exertion and self-tracking. Second, the interaction of gender and self-surveillance is examined in the domain of unpaid home labor, and a focus on the way that modern confessional occurred on the message boards as users shared their experiences with physical and in-physical activity or weight gain. We discuss the gendering of these confessionals, considering the particular and importance of household labor and postpartum weight loss, and how posters discuss their efforts to improve their health and their lives. Despite the seemingly neutrality of numbers and quantification, the users of Fitbit message boards illustrated some of the ways that fitness tracking practices are productive of social class and gender. Okay, that's the end of the findings paragraph. The next paragraph is called Fitbit, Social Class, and the Treadmill Desk. Okay. Much of the focus on the Fitbit message board centered on the workplace and the challenges that the employees face trying to accumulate steps throughout the day, and the numerous discussions about increasing step count or for ways to achieve a high step count, such as 50,000 steps per day, may, if not most of the steps needed to achieve such as high step count are assumed to take place at work. Embedded in these conversations are assumptions about the kind of work that people typically engage in that lead to them being sedentary. Illustrating some of the ways that social class is entangled with Fitbit use, the white-collar worker who is sedentary much of the day is constituted through assemblages of online telecommunication, desks, computers, memos, writing materials, and other components that make work more centered around the mind than the body. As we suggest the following, the autonomy needed to move around throughout the day, this assemblage is not enjoyed by all and is emblematic of how power is differentially distributed throughout these workplace assemblages. One such way that the Fitbit is a privileged practice through the experienced orientation of the body, which centers on self-improvement and self-reflection in ways that require considerable time, money, and hope for the future. The Fitbit subject assemblage is ultimately related to neoliberal discourses of risk and health, and the machining of I don't even know if that's a word. And the machining of desire to produce healthy, risk-free bodies, as users expect to assess their health risk to physical inactivity or high-calorie diets, and the use of data generated by Fitbit to change their behaviors and mitigate those risks. While physical activity has long been positioned as a way to reduce risk of illness, sedentary behaviors have more recently been targeted as the culprit for chronic illness. The ways that workplaces are structured today mean that sedentary activities, such as sitting at a desk, typing on a computer, and using online communication, are all commonplace. The catchphrase, sitting as the new smoking, is emblematic of the risk discourse surrounding sedentary behavior, as extended periods of sitting are alleged to increase a person's risk of mortality, even if they are meeting physical activity guidelines. This discourse of risk was part of the message board discussions about exercising while at work, with little consideration for the structural barriers that create differential access to workplace movement opportunities. FB1 was the most explicit about the need to walk throughout the day to minimize health risks. Sometimes I find it hard to get up, if not to walk, then at least to stretch. Downloaded an app that's basically a timer. I have to set a 25 minutes of work. I'm sorry, this little section is very hard to read, as it's quoted from a chat board, a Fitbit chat board, meaning there's a lot of grammatical and spelling mistakes. So I'm just going to paraphrase what they say instead of reading it directly from the article. Okay, so this person finds it hard to get up from their workplace, from where they're working, to walk around or to at least stretch. And so they've downloaded the app, which essentially times them. So for every 25 minutes, they have to get up and either walk or stretch for 5 minutes. And there's tons of them out there, and their timer is called Get Up and Stretch. And the reminder says, sit and kill, go get tea, and more steps as you need to walk more. That's very intense. Okay. The connection between risk behaviors and risk reducers was further articulated by the second post. At first I felt guilty taking walking breaks, then I figured out that if smokers can take breaks, so can walkers. Some competing discourses are at play so some people have responded to the second poster's narrative. This user not only reinforces the risk-reducing importance of walking at work, but also provides additional rationale for justifying risk-reducing walking breaks by analogizing them to risk-reducing smoking breaks. For the second poster, the healthy active Fitbit subject assemblage is defined over and against the unhealthy other smokers. And at the time, the second poster expresses guilt about taking a break from paid labor to engage in non-sedentary behaviors, illustrating a conceptualization of a good employee is committed to their work and nothing else, including their mental and physical health. For others, walking or exercising is discussed as a mechanism for adding steps rather than due to explicitly articulated avoidance of risk. This is the case for the third poster, who explains, I do sit behind a desk at work, but I take every chance to leap up and walk somewhere to see a colleague or to pass paper on. The fourth poster had a similar approach. I also take the stairs as much as possible at work. If I have to go to the cafeteria for lunch, I will often go to the one in the neighboring building rather than the one in my own building. Some went as far as to incorporate activities such as yoga in their workplace, such as poster 5. How large is your office? Mine is a decent size with a door I can close. I have a yoga mat in my office and I'll do yoga. I subscribe to Gaian TV, which I assume is a YouTuber, or I guess a Twitch streamer perhaps, which has hundreds of yoga videos of varying lengths. I'll start one and go through poses for about 10 minutes. My Fitbit does record this movement and I burn a few extra calories. For these users, technologies of the self, such as taking breaks throughout the day and using the office for exercises such as yoga and getting up from the desk regularly, were utilized for the purposes of self-improvement. Quotes from the forum posters above point to the myriad allies. Sorry, I'm going to take some more water. To the myriad allies. Human and non-human actors. They come together as a network to enable and produce these middle-class fitness practices. As Latour might put it, the specific workplace environment to which users are reacting, namely desk sitting, is an interplay between humans delegating particular functions to technologies. By processing information, gathering information and more, while technologies are prescribed behaviors back to us, sitting at a desk and being more German it's there. Many actors are required for users to walk to the extent that they document via the message board app, smartphones, adjacent buildings, television, offices, office doors, and more. All come together to aid the users in their walking. No ally, however, was discussed with as much reverence as the treadmill desk. This desk was invoked numerous times in the discussion board, not only as a way to build in exercise throughout the day, but to further achieve step counts considered impossibly high by some. Then, when the sixth poster posted to ask, who has the time to average 50,000 steps a day? How is this possible? The seventh poster responded, it is possible. Treadmill desk for one. Similarly, in a post about people who log extremely high step counts, poster 8 links a link to a treadmill desk as the secret trick. The Fitbits and other devices such as treadmill desks that get people walking throughout the day were intended to counter the postures that are prescribed by computers and desks. The machine desires of the message board posters that center around particular versions of fitness and well-being, productive of those assemblages of that enmesh fleshy bodies, doors, yoga mats, videos, and treadmill desks. Not all of the users accepted the assumptions inherent to the idealized workplace. Fitbit subject assemblage were users that are expected to use their work flexibility to take steps throughout the day. The Fitbit subject assemblage is neither discursively stable, nor materially stable. Instead, on the message boards, who or what a Fitbit subject assemblage might be is a differently considered, negotiated, and problematized. The ninth poster, who is worth quoting at length here, criticized the other users' recommendations. Okay, I'm just going to take a drink. Other than having a conversation with your boss about an actual lunch break, where those 30 minutes to an hour are your time and not company time, there's not much you can do, except do your job to the best of your ability. Taking a 5-minute break every hour may sound reasonable, but the companies we work for aren't always thinking very long-term about employee health. I can assure you, your co-workers and boss would notice that, and you might very well get some negative consequences. 10,000 steps is a fair amount of walking. It's highly unreasonable to think that everybody can get this done while at work. The ninth poster notes the ability to leave one's desk throughout the day for walking breaks is not a freedom that everybody can enjoy. For example, some workplaces invest in their workers through workplace wellness programs and encourage walking meetings, or indeed by promoting Fitbit use as Target has done. However, these workplace practices are typically reserved for highly educated and skilled workers. Target being an exception in this regard, who are considered to be difficult to replace. As a consequence, walking or otherwise exercising throughout the workday is easier for white-collar workers with an autonomy and control over their time. While people of many social backgrounds are susceptible to risks associated with sedentary behaviors and physical inactivity, not everybody is equally able to respond to those risks as advocated by the Fitbit subject of this course. Hmm. Okay. It is useful to consider the way that classes produce through these assemblages, since Slack and Wise point out agency and power are not distributed equally throughout networks. The assumption apparent on the message boards that everyone is enmeshed with the idealized Fitbit subject assemblage that we described above that included a private office, walking breaks, workplace yoga, and a treadmill desk does not acknowledge the privilege of such workplaces or the difficulty of accessing these tools that enable steps in the workplace. In this way, class identity can be said to be produced through assemblages that make a high step count while at work possible or desirable. And those that do not, it is though these assemblages that taking responsibility for your health, for your body and health at a workplace where you're highly valued and given freedom and space to take steps measured by a Fitbit throughout the day can produce a middle or upper class body identity. Okay. Okay, so we're going to be moving on to the next paragraph, which is called The Fitbit Confessional and Household Labor as a Fitness Barrier and Facilitator. Sorry. I'm going to take another drink break. So what's interesting so far, that very few people have actually been looking into like whether this type of activity is fair to assume that everybody can afford something like a treadmill disc, or whether like financially or even like just in the workplace. Because I don't think that every intern, I don't think a boss would allow every intern the purchase of a treadmill disc without assuming that it might distract them from their work. You have to have a level of trust and freedom, like I said at the end of this paragraph, with your employers. While it also depends on the type of company that you're working for, or whether you can actually access this type of assistance with your health or not. Because the company doesn't give two shits about your physical health. As long as you can show up to the job, do your job, and do it well, they don't really care. So in terms of long-term healthcare plans, they wouldn't give a flying toss. So it just kind of makes sense that they would be mainly focusing around productivity and well-being rather than like personal step count. Not to mention 10,000 steps is a lot of steps. Like a lot. I think that number sort of came from, if you did 10,000 steps a day and nothing else, you'd be fine. But on top of exercising outside of that 10,000 steps, it's not great. If you only did walking every single day at the gym, that kind of makes sense to do 10,000 steps. So I guess 10 kilometers of walking is a lot of walking. Like if you imagine that each step is about a meter long, or maybe even less than that. If you're somebody of my stature, which is quite short, your steps might be a meter or less. And if you have to take 10,000 of those, you're walking over 10 kilometers per day, which when you put it in that metric sounds pretty unreasonable. I mean, I guess if you add up all the steps you take around the house, around the office at your workplace, to and from the workstation, to and from the printer maybe, even if you add those all together, that might only add up to about maybe half that much or less. So you have to take that additional 5 kilometers and maybe like walking home from work, or as I've discussed previously, a treadmill disc, which just seems highly unreasonable to ask of the general public. Oh, hello. I'm doing well. How are you? You've been watching me for quite a while, so I hope you don't find this too boring. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. My throat's kind of not doing too well, which is why I haven't streamed in the past couple of days, but yeah, I mean, it's gotten better, so hopefully I'll be able to get through this article. hope you're doing well. Okay, I'm going to continue on with the article on the incident. Okay, that's nice. I mean, that's sort of I'm doing okay, thanks. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that should be good to listen to in the background. It's just yeah, I'm doing these streams with the intention of people either listening to it in the background, listening to it for educational purposes, or for like sleeping and that sort of thing. So yeah, if you're not listening actively, that's a good way to consume the content. So yeah, you keep doing what you're doing. Feel free to respond if you feel like you have something to contribute, but otherwise, do you play, like as in video games? I do play them, but I play them off stream because my computer is dog shit and can't handle me streaming them. So I mostly do, yeah. So I mostly do readings and that sort of thing. Yeah, it is. It's really really bad. My con- what games do I play? I like playing indie games. Um, like recently, I think it was titled The Sound of the Sea or something like that. It was this very short demo indie game by Japanese developers. It had an amazing soundtrack, good art, anything you could ask for. It was very relaxing to play. I also love Doki Doki Literature Club. I'm about to get into this game called Mate, which I think is more of like a psychological horror, but you know, I like those kinds of games as well. I also love rhythm games. Those are really fun to play as well. But every time I've tried to play like more competitive games, like um like League or anything like that, I just get way too stressed out. I just panic. So I'd rather stay away from games in which it's too competitive, especially since I'd initially be very, very bad at it. It would stress me out way too much to have to deal with that kind of thing. So I like having a game which has like an immersive story to it, so I can really get into it that way. So I can identify and analyze the stories, so I can listen to the soundtrack, so I can get good player engagement with it on a more personal level rather than interpersonal level. Yeah, it's not competitive. In real life, I'm competitive. I like sport generally. Yeah, story games are really nice. I enjoy visual novels. They're very nice. Um, I enjoy sport in real life. I mean, I I did martial arts for 10 years for Pete's sake. So yeah, I did karate for 10 years. So I'm a first dan currently, but I haven't done it in a hot minute because I've moved and I've yet to find like a proper dojo where I'm currently living. But yeah, that was a big part of my life for a long time. I also played football and cricket all throughout high school and throughout my childhood as well. So that's always been a part of my life too, especially since it's very family orientated. Yeah. Yeah. The fun stuff, yeah. Martial arts, beating people up, it's what I love doing. Yeah, the fun stuff. Yeah. No. It's the furthest thing from hot, trust me. Whenever I exercise, my face goes beet red. Yeah, it's good to give it a try. It's really good for releasing rage. I really like this as well. If you're angry, you can punch something without getting in trouble for it. So that's great. It's great exercise, like in terms of strength gaining. It also allows for great coordination. It also allows like good communication with other people as well, because when you're sparring, you're not just fighting all out. It's like good communication. You can get a really good community surrounding it. Yeah, so it's great. No matter what you try, you're going to get a good experience out of it. But if you have a low pain tolerance, I might be a bit more wary with which one you choose, because sometimes the martial art really focuses around like enduring pain, especially the one that I was in, especially since we did exercise that surrounded, knuckle press ups and punching floors and stuff like that to increase pain tolerance and to like get knuckle calluses and that sort of thing. So I'd be wary in choosing which one, but whatever one you do choose, I think it'd be a fun time for you. And like I said before, it's not hot in the slightest. My face goes beet red, I sweat, and I get very angry, and that is not hot in the slightest. Oh, you're majoring in criminology? That's so cool. Yeah, I'm currently majoring, well, not really majoring. Yeah, I'm doing a health sciences course, which allows me to like get into physiotherapy, which is what I'm going to be working on. Defense, like criminology. Yeah, generally, if you are going to be working in criminology, I guess like working in criminology with like the expectation that you're going to have to beat people up might not be a great thing. But I guess if you're working in an environment where you're working with aggressive individuals, yeah, it would help. Yeah, having some knowledge around it would be nice. Um, in terms of martial arts that'd be good for self-defense, I think Aikido would be a good start, I guess, because it generally doesn't require a lot of physical strength. It more uses like your opponent's strength against them. So it's good for more defensive strategies and fighting. In terms of one-on-one, judo is very good, but it's terrible in a group setting. I would recommend karate because it's a generally good all-rounder for that sort of thing. And there's a lot of different categories you can choose for in terms of the style that you pick. So, yeah, that sort of thing. But if you want to go for something that's more like general and westernized, because I'm picking mostly like Japanese martial arts, I think kickboxing is generally a good one to pick as well, because that's a good all-rounder as well. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's good to have knowledge into that sort of thing, yeah. Or just to have like, basic techniques down which you know that you could use at a moment's notice and that sort of thing. Yeah, I completely get that, especially since I personally suffer from anxiety. So being able to like relay like thoughts in my brain, like, okay, if this happens, I'll be able to do this, that sort of thing. Just like anticipating movements and what you can do if movements take place and that sort of thing is very helpful. So being able to theorize attacks in your head about what you'll do if certain things happen. Like, for example, if your hands are restrained, you can use a wrist breaking maneuver. Like, not saying like you literally break your wrist, but you break their grip using a wrist technique. Or if they grab you in a bear hug, you can use your elbows. They're a very good tool, that sort of thing. So being able to think about what attacks you're going to be using for specific situations is a very good tool to use, especially if you're not physically that strong. Yeah. Yeah, it's good that you're interested in that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just generally a good thing to get into. But also be wary that if you're going to get into a highly combative type martial art, that getting too many head knocks could potentially affect you chronically. So you need to be aware of that, because getting too many concussions isn't great. It's not very good at all. It's not good. Avoiding concussions is a good thing. Probably. Okay. I'm going to continue reading. Yes, yes. It's just at the start of the next paragraph. Yeah. I don't think that would be very efficient, especially over Twitch. Haha. No. I don't know. I might do one later on. I mean, I guess I'm kind of qualified since I have 10 years of experience in martial arts. So who knows? But it would be highly embarrassing seeing as I look incredibly stupid when I do martial arts, and kind of scary, as other people have said. So it might not be the most attractive stream you've ever seen. Yeah. I mean, it's something to keep in mind, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it's something to keep in mind. I could do something like that later on, but I definitely need better filming equipment, because currently I'm streaming with the microphone on my headset. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm currently filming with the microphone and my headset and the webcam on my computer, so I definitely need to get better equipment if I wanted to do like an exercise stream or something like that. But yeah, I'll get back to reading. You can get back to listening into the background, or you can make comments on it if you want. But the next paragraph is called "The Fitbit Confessional and Household Labor as a Fitness Barrier and Facilitator." Weight loss factored into many of the discussions on these message boards. After taking on a confessional tone whereby the posters describe their sins or physical inactivity or weight gain, and how the Fitbit has played a role in their redemption. As forms of communication have shifted to the digital age, so too have many of the confessions. Lupton has argued that the confessional tone of online social communities such as Facebook and Twitter shifts the confessional dynamic. Everyone can be an expert regardless of credentials because Fitbit produces data that can be measured by anyone against widely publicized health metrics such as the 10,000 steps recommendation or body mass index, or BMI. Who is authorized to be an expert and who is enabled to participate in the gaze through social media is a group that is becoming greater in number with devices like the Fitbit. The Fitbit confessional is included in a tale of realizing how inactive or overweight the user can become, and some kinds of redemption where they can set themselves on the right path of weight loss or physical activity. Such as an illustrative example, the 10th poster discussed their rock bottom moment and how she has her lifestyle changed. One of the biggest things is that I had no realization of how stagnant I had become since graduating college after having 3 surgeries. I felt like I was active enough and I was doing plenty. Wrong! I was barely doing 3,000 steps per day. But it felt like so many more because of the decline that I've had was rather gradual. But I've had the bit for over 6 months now, and I've already done 2 races, and I've started training for a half marathon. Other posters responded positively to such discussions, sometimes offering their own or disagreeing that Fitbits help to diagnose inactivity. The 11th poster stated, "Great point, 10th poster. That is what a Fitbit is good for, helping you realize over time that you have become really inactive. It does so, and it helps you measure and become mindful of how much you move." In these confessions, Fitbits were positioned as the experts that diagnose the user of being unacceptably inactive. With the proof of numbers, pennants can recognize their level of inactivity and seek to address it with the help of feedback generated by their Fitbit. The force of desire of the body that is healthy and fit produces these subjects who can count their steps in confessions, in which result in numbers that are entangled. Pleasure is an important aspect of these confessions. In the same discussions of denial, the pleasure that posters experience in achieving goals, such as "I've already done 2 races," and working towards their goals, such as "I'm training for a half marathon," suggests that pleasures are both denied and experienced within the Fitbit subjectivity. While Foucault's theorizations of the modern confession focus on the interactions between humans, the person who is confessing, and the confessor, the power and knowledge of humans that pervades this relationship. It is important to note the non-human actors that play a vital role. Numbers are important in the realizations of rock bottom, and these numbers come from a variety of measurement tools and statistics. For example, numbers on body weight scale have influenced a person's perception of their body, and perhaps they need to change it. In the case of the 12th poster, they quote, "I got the message about 9 months when I hit 249 pounds, and my physician said that I need a gastric bypass. I looked into it and decided it wasn't for me and began a lifestyle of eating and exercise." The weight scale is a vital part of the production of obesity, assigning people to acceptable and unacceptable categories. Weight scales turn fleshy bodies into numbers that is perceived to convey the truth of that body. Increasingly, however, the Fitbit is part of the confessing assemblage. The confessing assemblage is the entanglement of discourses and desires that are critical of the physical inactivity and weight gain. Online message boards where the confessions occur, the users who make and observe confessions, and now the network of self-tracking devices and apps that quantify the individual failings that bring about these confessions. The 10th poster stated that she was barely making 10,000 steps per day. At her low point, poster 13 voiced support for another's confession. "I was in the same boat as you. I got 2,000 steps on a good day. Finally decided to start walking at the mall." Extending this assemblage, the Fitbit band is not particularly useful by itself, but as the majority of feedback to users is displayed, the Fitbit app, and the necessities Fitbit app that necessitates the use of the smartphone as well. Apps like the Fitbit app and MyFitnessPal, an app that calculates calories consumed and calories expended to keep users on track to reach a goal weight, and are an important part of non-human confessional as well. These devices make it legible the numbers and that position a person as healthy or unhealthy. It is not only a person who interprets confessions and diagnoses ill health. In this case, it is a step counter and an app that does it is a step counter and an app that do so. The confessioning assemblage described above highlights the human and non-human actors that enact these confessions. Rather than being in a corporal space where people can form limitless subjectivities, as Ringrose notes, online space is plugged into offline space in a continual flow of energies that constitute the virtual/real, making those spaces productive for social norms such as class and gender striations. As a result, some of these Fitbit confessional discussions pointed to the ways that gendered power dynamics regard home labor or the second shift as produced with these assemblages. The second shift, which is the home labor that women are expected to do once they finish their first shift of paid labor, is an infertile collection of humans and non-humans that need to be cleaned, sorted, and put away in a never-ending cycle. The fact that the second shift refers to the expectation that women will do this work speaks to the ways that humans and non-humans and discourses come together to produce gendered home labor dynamics. In 2013 discussion, poster 14 discussed her turning point. Just going to take another drink break. Okay, let's see what poster 14 has said. Last January, I reached a turning point. I had gotten to 278 pounds, have 2 bad knees, and an aortic valve with stenosis. I told my husband that I needed to change and could not eat the food that he loves anymore. We came to an agreement hereby that he has a freezer filled with his favorite home-cooked meals, and I eat what works for me. I signed up to MyFitnessPal, and I now have a Fitbit, which is synced with Pal. To date, I have lost 70 pounds and intend to continue until I am a healthy weight. I could barely walk last year, and I am now doing a mile a day on the treadmill. Just take the first step and never look back. The 14th poster could not simply choose to change her lifestyle on her own. Just as agency not only the property of humans within these assemblages, her lifestyle changes entailed negotiating with her husband, the food storage techniques that enable more flexibility to plan and change her diet, such as that it would not interfere with the food that he loves. As the 14th poster suggests, her lifestyle change created even more home labor for herself, since she now has to prepare separate meals for herself and her husband. The desire that produces the 14th poster's suppression of appetite and pleasure of the purposes of weight loss, and indeed the pleasure that comes from self-denial, as well as success in achieving one's health and fitness goals, intersected with her husband's needs that opposed hers, and the technologies that were needed to accommodate such a lifestyle. Hello, if you've just joined, I'm still reading through an article on Fitbits, and the effect that they can have in terms of like their communication with the people that they are, that are owning them, and how they can discuss that on message boards and the impact that it has on them socially, as well as mentally, and like the sort of pressure it can put on them. Yeah, okay. And at the moment we're discussing like gender roles, so such as like a wife that comes home after paid work is expected to do housework. And in this particular example, because she wants to lose weight, she has to cook separate meals for herself and her husband in order to accommodate for her weight loss lifestyle, as well as her normal lifestyle. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to continue to read. Okay. I have lost my place again. Okay, this post explicitly links the second and third shifts of labor that women are expected to engage in, thus suggesting how the third shift of physical fitness practices can put stress on the second shift, household tasks such as cooking. In other words, expectations of feminized labor, alongside everything that is entailed to make a lifestyle change, are the products of the agency of gendered discourses, practices, desires, humans, and non-humans. In other cases, household labor was evoked as enabling more steps, making the case that the second shift can be health-promoting. The fifth poster began the conversation. How do people get above 20,000 steps? With the previous post, I am active, run 3 miles in the morning, work all day, goof around with the children in the evening while I do housework, but getting above 20,000 steps per day seems elusive to me. Help. The 16th poster replied, I hit 20,000 steps one time, and it was my day off work, and I walked about 3 hours. Grocery shopping was active around the house. I semi-ignored my family. It was crazy. For both of these users, household labor was thought to increase step counts as recorded by Fitbit. In this case, being an active parent, playing with one's children, maintaining the home, means being a physically active parent, with a high step count as a result. If consumption is part of a woman's identity, consumption is part of how women's identities came to be defined, we could argue that the consumption of a Fitbit alongside a high-step accumulating lifestyle is productive of the identity of a responsible and respectable mother who takes their health seriously. Gender here is enacted through the connections between the home, the workplace, the store, the modes of transportation used between them, and the myriad of other actors that produce steps and activity throughout the day that are positioned in the activities of women. In other words, power is not exercised between humans, non-humans have their say. Power shapes the sexist structural barriers such as gendered stereotypes that influenced how users engage in their fitness trackers, such as limitations for physical activities that are imposed by the gendered second shift and therefore their abilities to embody the Fitbit subject assemblage. The conclusion. Oh damn, we already get the conclusion? Bruh. That was really fast. Okay, the conclusion. The online community examined in this study is a site for confessions of past failures, current failures, and the road to better health practices. Users assess their risk and utilize technologies to engage in self-improvement, but they do so in diverse contexts that differently allow them to assume the dominant Fitbit subjectivity, assemblage, recommendations for getting extra steps throughout the workday, all but ignore the privileges that are required to take breaks throughout the day or even to feel that your body and health are worth investing in over a long period of time. The gendered second and third shifts of labor that are shaped by Fitbit as well in the ways that home labor is folded into fitness discourses for women, whether as a barrier or a facilitator to fitness, as women are being told that they can do and be anything, especially with the help of Fitbit. The same barriers persist that lead to be considerable challenges to achieving this Fitbit subject assemblage. By exploring what makes up the Fitbit subject assemblage, this analysis has examined the implied standards, discourses, and subject-objects of Fitbit use that shape how users try to assemble themselves as ethical subjects within fitness discourses. The Fitbit as a technology of the self that favors particular relations, bodies, and social positions over others, Fitbit is not used on its own. Technologies such as weight scales, smartphones, fitness apps, and caloric information enable users to track multiple aspects of their bodies and lives. Extending this even further, the ability to take walks throughout the day and to eat meals that allow for negative energy balance according to the MyFitnessPal app, depends on a number of material factors such as timer apps, freezers, sidewalks, treadmills, walking paths, and more. It is important to consider the working of these networks of actors, not least because these networks shed light on the ways that power operates through Fitbit. For all the emphasis on personal responsibility that power operates through Fitbit, for all the emphasis on personal responsibility within these discussions, the ability to take personal responsibility seems deeply dependent on the networks it outlines. The goal of this article is to extend the analysis of Fitbit use and Fitbit subjectivities, beyond the individual to the social material circumstances that enable particular ways of being a Fitbit subject for some, while constraining others. Through an examination of the material ways such as gender and class are enacted through the Fitbit use, the black box of power, to borrow from Latour, is opened as Harmon explains. A black box is any intact, so firmly established that we are able to take its interior for granted. The internal properties of a black box do not count as long as they are contained with its input and output. A black box allows us to forget the massive network of alliances of which it is composed, as long as it functions smoothly. To see the Fitbit as a black box is to see the device as objectively reports the activities of the user and equally enables all to embody an idealized Fitbit subject assemblage through access of self-knowledge. By opening the black box of the Fitbit, our hope has been to cast the net of how power functions, and through these devices, a little wider. These questions are of political importance. In a time where wearing a Fitbit is not necessarily a choice, as it is the case for the ORU and for target employees, understanding how power works through Fitbit is both discursely and maternally. The power works through Fitbit can help critical health or ethically possible to become a Fitbit subject from any social location. It is undoubtedly more difficult to do so if you do not have the flexibility to walk throughout the day, a body that can take 10,000 steps per day, in the availability of safe and interesting areas to walk in, or even the appearance of a person who can walk in those safe areas without arousing suspicion. By examining the interrogating of these power dynamics, a better understanding of how the QS is shaping fitness practices, and indeed for whom, can be better understood. Can be better understood. That's the end of the sentence. Okay, and that's the end of the article. It's a very interesting one, at least from what I found. Yeah, it had a very interesting way of looking at it, because I think most people at one point sort of went through a phase of, oh, tracking your health is a good thing. If you want to get fit, get a Fitbit. But all the Fitbit really does is it just tracks and allows you to make lifestyle changes according to what it finds. And so it's not necessarily a save all in yourself, and it's about the time that you put into it. Time which a lot of people don't have, especially if you need to cut into your other obligations in order to do so, which some people have the availability to do and some don't, which creates these unrealistic expectations as to what's achievable and what's not. Yeah, and so when you think about it from a socioeconomic perspective, you could think about it in terms of those who typically get paid less in their jobs, who are more expendable, are less likely to have the same freedoms that those with higher paying jobs have. Like, for example, someone who is a CEO who runs their own company has complete freedom over their own work schedule, essentially. Like they can create their own work schedule for what works for them and what's the most efficient for their own company. And so they're able to have something like a device such as a treadmill, which you can walk on during work, which he probably wouldn't grant the freedom of to one of his interns, for example, at the bottom of the rung, because they're expected to do large quantities of work with few breaks. Yeah, the same expectation of trust and expendability isn't there. And that's just talking in terms of socioeconomics or your level or tier of power in your own workplace and what freedoms you actually have, depending on your workplace. Because there will be some workplaces which are more lenient than others on their more expendable positions. Yeah, but if your job provides specific expertise or qualifications, you're more likely to have a greater amount of freedom than those who are more expendable in the job positions. And so therefore, you have less time to run on the treadmill or go for a walk or take multiple breaks during work. Yeah, so it's an interesting discussion to have, especially when it comes down to those who might not necessarily have that time and are having to have the same obligations or time management at home, which they wouldn't necessarily have outside of the home. Yeah, it's very interesting. Especially, they didn't really mention this, but if you think about it, those who would potentially need to get fit the most might not benefit from having a Fitbit in the first place. Because if you think about people that are very overweight, to the extent where it affects their heart and lung capacity, it would affect their level to exercise. And so 10,000 steps might seem like an unreasonable amount for them to accomplish. So it's also a fact that you have to think about, and that they might feel guilty seeing all these people take 10, 20, 50,000 steps. Oh, I have no fucking clue. I mean, I know that there are some fitness apps which do take sexual activity as like a type of sport that you can do. So I mean, you could probably put that in as something, because you can put in sexual activity as a calorie burner, which seems like really like weirdly intrusive if you think about it. Like your Fitbit knows how often you have sex if you're welcome to input it, because it's technically a calorie burning activity. So in that case, it's kind of funny. But I don't know. You do you. If that's your main form of exercise, I guess. Good forearm strength to you, sir. Nice. Okay. Mm. Mm. Yeah. I mean, the only thing about data collection is that it's kind of easy to track your steps, because it just tracks either your location or your heart rate or like the type of movement that you're doing, like body-wise. But if you're doing a very specific type of exercise, for example, if you went on a run or if you did kickboxing or something, or if you decided to do something specific like cycling, you'd have to input that very specific type of exercise to get the correct amount of data that you're trying to find. So that sort of takes the background data gathering into a more sort of like personal aspect of it, so that it would just be more difficult overall. It would kind of be, yeah, really complicated stuff. Yeah, exactly. But all I'm trying to say is that step count and your heart rate is really all that matters for that like specific type of exercise. So you would have to input it yourself, which would, take yourself out of the whole collecting in the background kind of thing. I mean, I don't know how they would do that, because I can kind of understand steps because they can track your location and that sort of thing. But I'm like, when it comes down to very specific types of exercise, they probably wouldn't. Especially as you mentioned before with like sexual activity. And as they've added something reasonably recently, they've added in like breastfeeding as an example of something that can burn calories as well. Like, how are they supposed to track that? Are they are they gonna check my milk flow? What are they gonna do about that? How are they tracking it? It's about what you have to input yourself versus what it collects in the background. Yeah, exactly. So it's about, yeah, because inputting something yourself kind of takes the purpose out of having a Fitbit, because it's not collecting it in the background and you can look at it later and be like, wow, I only walked 100 steps today. It's more like, oh, I have to input what I'm eating now, where I'm walking to, what exercise I'm doing, what type of yoga I'm doing, that kind of thing. It just becomes more and more work, which people don't want to put in. Because when you think about a Fitbit, it's all like in the background, and that's what people want it to remain as, rather than something that they have to engage in constantly. Especially when it comes to people which have eating disorders, where it might become like very habitual, where it's like, oh yo, I'm going in and out, I'm constantly recording every single thing that I have to do. It just becomes addictive. So people who have disorders like exercise addiction and eating disorders which surround like counting calories, it's not healthy at all for them to do so, because their goals aren't healthy weight loss, it's just weight loss in general for the sake of control. And that's not a great thing, especially as someone who's experienced something quite similar with a similar app, which was just like counting calories. You could input exercise as well, but it was mainly calorie counting. And I had to take time, like before I ate something, to check how many calories it had, and I had to keep going and what substances, what micronutrients there were. It's just this never-ending spiral of just control of what you're eating and what you're doing. It's not healthy. This And this article doesn't even really touch on that. It just touches on the social aspect of it and the otherworldly expectations which Fitbits sort of have with them, in sort of like how people are achieving like 10, 20, 50,000 steps using a day, which is an absurd amount of walking. Like if you think about that conceptually, it's like you might take one step, like a meter is one step. If I'm thinking of like the metric system, I'm just going to explain in the metric system. Like if you take one step per meter, right? 10,000 steps is 10 kilometers. That's it's a lot. It's a lot. Which is almost like a little over, maybe around 6 miles. If I'm thinking of the imperial system, I think that's about 6 miles, which is a lot of walking if you think about it. Like even 1 mile might seem like a lot to some people. So 6 miles as an average in a day is absurd to a lot. Yeah, so 50,000 steps is 50 kilometers, which is more than a marathon. People are running more than a marathon in a day because they just keep walking on these bloody treadmills all day. It's just absurd. Imagine running over the length of a marathon in a day because that's what your Fitbit app is telling you to do. It just sounds absolutely ridiculous. Well, like even 20 kilometers, which is like a half marathon, sounds ridiculous to do on a daily basis. But people are walking these distances on treadmills because they have the time to do so in their 9 to 5 job, because they're in like higher positions of power, which allows them to do so. Yeah, yeah, it's a very interesting subject to look into. There's a lot of intricacies that you don't really think about and that sort of thing. Yeah. Is this on? What's the thing? Oh, to the article, or well, the article itself isn't really on the specific input. Yeah, the article itself is based on the more like social aspect of it and how it influences people. But I can give the link to the article. I'll see if I can find it actually, because I don't know if it's like available to the general public, because it is an academic article, but I can look it up for you. See if I can get the link. Actually, it's a Sunday night for me, thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the weekend's like the best time I get for this type of streaming, so I don't know. It's fun to analyze. I don't know. I find this kind of thing fun. I get that it's unusual. Oh, this is such a long fucking word. It's a Foucauldian-sociomaterialist examination. You're like a master student? No. No. This is just for a health sciences course, and I'm doing population health, which is more like a social analysis of health and its impacts on people and that sort of thing. I am not a master's student, but this is the reading material which I must go over. So I thought I might as well like have discussions with people about it online, and I thought that would help me analyze it a bit better. Not to mention like just being able to get like this type of academic material out to like the general public place sounds like a nice thing to do, especially if people want to access this type of material or didn't know they want to access this type of material, you know? So, yeah. Oh, hello. How are you doing? Oh, yeah, sure. Whatever. I don't know. You're here for your own reasons. I hope you're having a good day. I'm just looking at the link to the article. Examination of the social class, gender, and self-surveillance. Oh, it's nice and cool today. That's great. Get out while you can to the reading articles. But I'd like yeah. It's okay. I finished reading the article. It's fine. I finished reading it. That's enough for today. I might see if I can read some like short text or something, like a story. Like the last time I finished my thing earlier than expected, I just I read a short Roald Dahl book, and that seemed to be quite enjoyable to read to whoever was watching. So yeah, if you guys want me to do something like that, I will. Or if you want to discuss things, I can discuss things back, of course. What did you miss the entire article? You missed the entire thing, buddy. But that's okay. Something about the potential for promoting healthy lifestyles. No, not really. It's more about it's more anti Fitbit than pro Fitbit, in all honesty. But it's about not really their potential for promoting healthy lifestyles. It's more like the unrealistic expectations. Are they like an Apple Watch? Yeah, sort of like that. They're a company that promotes these watches which track your steps and that sort of thing. And so this article was based on people in these message boards. Yeah, in these message boards that were like monitoring and talking to people about their process with the Fitbit and how much it either improved their lives or how it was detrimental to their lives. Mostly from it was like, hey, I was at rock bottom, but then I got a Fitbit and it got so much better, kind of thing. Okay. Yep, it has the whole article in here. I'll use the link of a website that has this one. Let's see. Come on. Okay, that's the article. There you go. All good. Yeah. I mean, it's more about they talked about in the article how different expectations were placed on people during like discussions in these message boards, because you'd have people from like all different backgrounds that were using Fitbits, mostly sort of like middle age, so between like the ages of 35 to 54 was sort of the target audience. And so you'd have these people that so the general expectation, like a health guideline sort of state that you have to take at least 10,000 steps per day. I think we've all heard of that statistic, like 10,000 steps a day is a good amount of walking to have. But that's achievable for a lot of different people. What do you think? Someone should own a Fitbit. It depends on your own circumstances. If you think it could benefit you, then feel free to do whatever you wish. I'm not going to advise against it. But in terms of Fitbit message boards, like yeah, but like if you feel free to set your own personal goals that you feel like are like that aren't going to be detrimental to your own physical health, because you need to be aware of the pressures that can surround being in like a notice board, for example, around Fitbits, because people are posting things like, oh, I lost 70 pounds. My goal is to stop smoking meth. That's a good goal to have, buddy. Beautiful. Yeah, gotta have that white powder, nummy. Delicious. Drink water, sir. Yeah, it's a good goal. Beautiful. Good to see some positivity in my chat. Beautiful. Thanks for the follow. That's much appreciated. Yeah, it's more about so even 10,000 steps might seem like unrealistic, especially to somebody who's working constantly and can't put in those hours. But for a select few that are at the top, they have these sort of like life hacks which they have for achieving these unattainable step counts. Like, for example, 50,000 steps, which is absolutely ridiculous. Who has the time to walk 50 kilometers in a day? These people do, apparently, and how they do it is they put a treadmill at their desk and they just walk the whole day. Yeah, so it's like a niche item. Yeah, it's like just a fitness accessory is how I describe it. So it tracks everything you do, it tracks what you eat, and it tracks your steps and sort of your heart rate and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's not really a niche item. I mean, it's sort of been around for ages. It's been like a well-promoted fitness item, so it's pretty mainstream, I think. Yeah, I think it's pretty mainstream. But yeah. Yeah, so you have these people that are like on treadmills the entire day at their office, just like grinding, that go on that fit grind set, you know, getting these things you left. I called my friends bullying me into owning height adjustment table. Oh, like a standing table. Yeah, that's another one of them because of like the whole term sitting is the new smoking. So nobody sits at their desks anymore. Everybody's standing around and destroying their knee joints. I think staying in any position for an extended period of time except for sleep isn't a great idea in general. I think just moving around, changing positions, that kind of thing. I don't understand like TikTok. Why is that popular thing? It's into songs. It's not all that sings into songs. I don't think. I don't have a TikTok, so I'm just guessing this information through osmosis. But I think lip syncing to songs is more of like a Musical.ly thing, which is like all the way back in 2016, where that thing was kicked into the oblivion of the internet. It's gone forever. Do I have an OnlyFans? No, I do not. Why would I? I don't feel the need to. No shade to people who have an OnlyFans. I just personally wouldn't partake in one. At least not at this point in my life. I don't feel the need to, so I don't. But like people who own OnlyFans, I look up to them. Like good business people. Yeah, Vine is gone. TikTok's a predecessor. Yeah, like TikTok's a weird fusion of like Vine and Musical.ly, and it's a really good formula for some reason. Yeah, it's working for a lot of people because it's got that whole like 6-second consumable content vibe, which both got going. It's a very successful formula, as we're seeing. Yeah, so yeah, and it's sort of combined the whole like popular music aspect of it with the whole comedy video sketch format of it, and sort of combining them into like this big mess of content, which our brains just love to consume so much. So I don't have one, but people are saying that I should get one, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. It's interesting that TikTok is owned by a Chinese company too, right? Oh, not really. TikTok's been around for a while, like a long time. It only really kicked off in the West in 2020, but it's been around forever. Like I remember I had a friend who was from China who had the app all the way back in 2017. Yeah, so it's been around for ages, but only really kicked off in the West in like 2020-ish. It's been around in China for a very long time. So, well, I don't know how long exactly, but I know it's been in China for quite some time, at least back in 2017, because that was when I first saw somebody using it. Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah. I don't have much to talk about in terms of TikTok. I don't have one, so I can't discuss much about it. Just my knowledge is there, but it's like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, cool. In terms of things to talk about, feel free to suggest anything and free to talk about anything if you want to discuss it. I can discuss it. But yeah, fun. I could read a children's book if you want that. I read a Roald Dahl book the other day. It was very fun and kind of scary actually. I didn't realize that SEO Trot had like weirdly dark themes to it. It was so strange. It was like a mixture between like simp behavior. Do you have any green eggs and ham? Oh no, I don't. I don't have any Dr. Seuss. I mainly have Winnie the Pooh book. No, no, stop talking about OnlyFans. I don't have one, and I don't think I'll ever possess one. Yeah, what book recommendation? I might see if I have it on me. It better not be porn. Two bodies doesn't know. Oh, that sounds interesting. I'll write it on my notes and see if I can get it up on a stream later on. Where are my notes at? There they are. As you have an OnlyFans, good on you. Yeah. Do you ever see that theory video with Snowpiercer's and sequel to Charlie and Tosha? I've seen both movies, but I don't know how somebody could make that connection. Okay, so it's this three body problem. I think I've heard of that before. By Xin Lo Liu? Is it Lao or Liu? I think it's Xin Liu. Okay. Xin Liu. Nice. Firstly, video is very convincing. I think most theory videos are convincing to some extent. Like, I mean, there's some fucking videos in Minecraft lore that are convincing the long enough you listen to them, so. As long as they use enough buzzwords and they have enough loose threads, they can connect anything to everything. That's how conspiracy theories work. Okay, but thank you for the book recommendation. I'll look into it. I don't know. But those sorts of theory videos, unless there's like specific evidence which has like no opposed meanings, okay. Like I didn't the reason why on the occasion like seeing at the end there's a kid the size of it and stuff like that. Really? 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 Nah. It's sort of no, with Snowpiercer it was like a metaphor on how like societies run on the backs of the poor and children. I don't think it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Think about the metaphors. The metaphors. Think. Think about the metaphors, please. The metaphors mean something sometimes. Why do I have to like fucking hell? You sound like people who I try to tutor English to. They're like, why metaphors matter? They don't matter, man. You're just gonna take everything at face value. No, you don't. You simply don't. What other fun stuff do you watch? I don't watch anything because when I've tried to play clips on my computer, it crashes. Yeah, streaming pretty much takes on the full power of my computer. If my microphone was attached to my computer and not on my headset, you could probably hear my computer going off like an industrial fan. Yeah, but yeah, Snowpiercer has some really good themes. Yeah, Snowpiercer is a very interesting movie. Yeah, Bong Ho, is it Bong Ho Choi? He's the same director who did Parasite. He's very good with visual metaphors and that sort of thing, so he's a genuinely good director. I think Snowpiercer. Need to watch that. Yeah, I think Parasite's a better movie for those types of metaphors than Snowpiercer. But Snowpiercer isn't bad. It's just that it was sort of like it was condensed because it was produced for a Hollywood audience, because it was produced by Hollywood and not by a Korean studio. So it was produced in English by English people by a Korean director. Midsummer. I've heard of both of those things. I've heard that Hereditary is very good. So I'll take you up on that offer, but I haven't heard of Midsummer before, I don't think. Midsummer. And Hereditary, of course. Hereditary. Nice. Series recommendations are The Boys, Servant, and Severance. Oh, is that one title, I'm guessing? The Boys, Servant, and Severance. Interesting. Yep. Oh, 3 separate titles. Okay. Nice. Okay, done that. Cool. Yeah, those seems like very interesting titles to have. I had to write an entire essay on Parasite, which is why I'd probably recommend it over Snowpiercer, because I understand the themes in it a lot more detail than I did with Snowpiercer. Not to mention I sort of enjoyed the movie more in general. Still one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah. Trying to think, what is my favorite movie of all time? Interstellar is pretty far up there. It's a basic choice, but it's forever up there. Is that a Korean film? Yeah, Parasite's the Korean film by a Korean director. I think it was one of the first international films to like win a Golden Globe, actually. Interstellar is one of my favorite movies too. That's great. Yeah, equal interest. Yeah, Parasite is a Korean film, and it was the first international film to win a Golden Globe. Label says Ryan Gosling is in it. In Parasite, he might be. I don't think he is. He might be in Snowpiercer, not Parasite. Snowpiercer is by a Korean director, but I think the movie was made in Hollywood, so it's like with English actors and everything like that. So the actors in Snowpiercer aren't Korean, but they are in Parasite. Both intellectual and emotional aspects. Two movies that real both. Yeah, I get that. Like I have an existential crisis every single time I watch Interstellar, and there are a few movies that can achieve that. Yeah, and it feels, it's really, Interstellar was cool. Yeah, I think it's my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. Yeah, space stuff is really cool, and the whole there aren't that many space movies which touch on the whole gravity and difference in time thing, because like they often have like a loophole for that. For example, like, oh, they can jump through space-time, so there is no time difference between us traveling from thousands of light years away and that sort of thing. But Interstellar takes a more realistic approach as they play with the idea of gravity being able to manipulate time, as that's a real concept, and how that can affect families and that sort of thing, and like how your perception of time is warped, and how you can be placed in a land that's thousands of years ahead of you without meaning to, and like achieving your entire life because of it. It's very cool, it's very harrowing, and it's like, despite being a space movie, very realistic feeling, you know? Yeah. Yeah, Batman Begins up, Dark Knight. I kind of like Dark Knight. It was kind of edgy, but it was pretty good. And still up, Dunkirk down. Oh, Dunkirk was good. Don't diss on Dunkirk. Tenet down. I haven't seen Tenet, so I can't comment on it. But there's also Inception, which isn't a bad movie, but I still think Interstellar's better. But people often credit Inception to be better. But like, nah, Interstellar better. Dunkirk was boring? No, it's not boring. Not if you enjoy war and tragedy. Let me enjoy my war and tragedy. It's not boring. Harry Styles was in it. Harry Styles. Come on, it's fine. It's fine. Let me have my taste. It's all about evacuating. Oh yeah, but it was like there was the suspense of being trapped on this French beach, and I think it was the French. Yeah, the French were coming in on them, and it was sort of like this sense of hopelessness and this last ditch mission to get them out of there before they were overcome by the French. So yeah, it was a very suspenseful time. Yeah, let me enjoy Dunkirk. I have a very sentimental feel for war movies and such, because in my country we have something called Anzac Day, which is a day that we remember people from the Second World War, specifically the people that fought in Gallipoli against the Turkish. So yeah, that's sort of, so I have a pretty decent connection with war, and we have a lot of memorials and events surrounding it. Yeah, so it's something that we often celebrate. It's like a time of the year. We get up at dawn and we go to the dawn service. We have Anzac parades and that sort of thing. Anzac stands for Australia and New Zealand Army Corps. So we combine our military with Australia, essentially, and yeah, that was one of the main events we took part in Gallipoli, which was a very sad and tragic event, as a lot of people, as there wasn't a lot of force put into it. We were just sort of like pushed into this island, and so many people died. But thanks to trench warfare, we were able to, be able to get out of it. I think no, Gallipoli was First World War. I'm getting that mixed up. It is First World War. Yeah, First World War was Gallipoli. Yeah, we did take part in the Second World War, but it was in different locations. Yeah, it was a very interesting and quite harrowing experience, because we experienced war from the perspective of, I guess from the experience of loss. That's how we experience war. It's not from the perspective of victory, or from the perspective of being on the losing side, just from the perspective of pure loss, because we were just essentially like a military force that was used by the First World in order to gain victory in the First World War. But we didn't take part in the main battles, or played like a very essential part in the main battles. So we were sectioned off into like these smaller fights, which weren't necessarily more difficult, like better or easier to win. It was just tragic to see so many people die, especially since some people were just sent out to those islands to essentially be fodder for these fights, so that it would prevent just the essential takeover, or at least slow them down. Yeah, it wasn't too great, especially since you hear very realistic accounts of what it was like to be there, and the amount of struggles they had to go through on that battlefield were excruciating, and we hear that in great detail within my country. So yeah, my perspective on war isn't so much the victory of it, it's more like the pain that comes with it. Even if we did win the First World War, from our perspective, nobody really wins. It's just pain and suffering, which isn't great, to say the least. Yeah, not a big fan of war, but I don't think that's a very controversial opinion. um, mm, mm, yeah, I mean, I guess when you think of it from a broader perspective, yeah, I guess you're right. But like, if you think of it from like a smaller perspective, like, it just came down to pure ignorance and manipulation, and thinking that your country could rise above what it initially fell from, because the whole point of the Second World War was because Germany struggled immensely economically from the consequences of the First World War. And the citizens of that generation hated the fact that they had to pay for that war. And so Hitler created a narrative in which they weren't in the wrong, and a plan for them to recover economically, which just so happened to be killing a lot of people, essentially committing genocide. But because he sowed this narrative of the fact that the people that they were defeating were evil and that they deserved to die, because he knitted this narrative, this perfect narrative, And it's something that they could latch onto, something that they could believe in. A lot of people believed it. But there was, yeah, it goes back to economics and ideology originally. Yeah, exactly. It's more complicated than you think, especially since when a tragedy or hardship happens, society wants something to blame it on. And that's essentially what Germany went after. And in the same way, you could think about 9/11 in the same way that America, when 9/11 initially happened, they were looking for somebody to fight, somebody to blame for this tragic incident, and so they went after Iran essentially, despite the fact that the citizens were innocent, and so Guantanamo Bay occurred, which was a horrific thing to happen to these innocent people. They were imprisoned for several years and treated as if they were animals, many of which died there because they weren't served medical care for like the torture they went. No, it was the government. Essentially, what happened is they sent in soldiers to Iran and said, "Hey, we're looking for these terrorists from your country. If you rat them out, we'll pay you." And so people just ratted out their neighbors, and these innocent people got sent over to Guantanamo Bay and were tortured for no apparent reason because they wouldn't give answers because they didn't have any. They were sent over for no reason. They were essentially martyrs because they wanted somebody to blame, despite the fact that they weren't at fault. Yeah, because it's not the entire country. It was a specific domestic terroristic group in Iran. It wasn't Iran in general. Yeah, Germany, Japan, Iran. Yeah. I mean, I don't think. Did I talk about Japan? No, I don't think I've talked about Japan. I mean, I'm not American. I've just watched some documentaries on it, so I know a little bit about it. So I'm not fully immersed in the culture, so I wouldn't see it from like from a Anger's perspective. Yeah, about age assassination. I don't know much about American history, so I don't know. From what I recall, he was shot in a theater, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I'm not American, so I don't know. I don't know much. Shit happens, Would you empower people want to kill you? That kind of shit. Suspected it because of a church. Ooh, so it was the domestic terrorism. Oh shit! Wait, no, not Pearl Harbor. I meant 9/11. No, not Pearl Harbor. 9/11. I wasn't referring to Pearl Harbor. Even the Japanese president. Sir, don't try to confuse me. No, don't confuse me. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to confuse me. Japan doesn't have a president. America is the greatest country. Oh, I'm sorry, how could I not know? America's the greatest country. Forgive me. I should have known about your entire history, despite the fact that I've never gone there or lived there. I apologize for my ignorance. Prime Minister, my bad. Well, yeah, they do have a Prime Minister. They also have emperors, but they don't play much of a political role anymore, as far as I know. Yeah. I doubt there would have been a Japanese Prime Minister called Abe, though. I know you're not trying to convince me of this. You're not going to try and convince me of this shit. I'm not that stupid. I may be stupid, but I'm not that stupid. No. Stop trying. You're not going to get me at this. You're not going to get me. I mean, there was an emperor that died recently, but I don't think he was assassinated. No, I think I would have heard about the Japanese Prime Minister. Fuck you, I'm gonna have to Google it. No. Fuck you. Oh, he is. Oh shit! You weren't lying, bruh. thought you were fucking lying to me. Bruh. Oh shit. Maybe I am stupid. Yeah, yeah, from what I just read, it was a shooting, yeah. Bruh, thanks for telling me that shit. Sorry, when you said Abe, I assumed you meant Abraham Lincoln, and I was like, president also assassinated, has some conspiracy theories surrounding it, kind of thing, and I was like, the reason why, oh, yeah. Japan has some issues surrounding very specific cults. Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know much about it. I can't comment on that shit, man. This is getting too political. Too political. No, sir. Thank you for telling me about the Japanese Prime Minister assassination, but stop, please. No, no. We aren't going to regress that much. We may have regressed in recent events, but we haven't regressed that much. No, we aren't regressing that much. No, don't even go there. That could be a possibility with the way that we're going currently. So you don't even bring that up. You're gonna jinx us. You're gonna jinx all of us. I mean, fucking hell. America's looking at getting rid of fucking same-sex marriage. So I wouldn't put it past them to reinstate slavery. Fucking hell. Something like. Oh, the amount of money that they donated? Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. Like, there are a lot of cults in Japan, which are like very, they take a lot of control. Like, what was this one called? It was one that was run by this blind dude that essentially, he made like a religion that was like a fusion of like Christianity, Buddhism, I think Taoism and Shintoism. And he sort of like mixed them all into making him like the savior of the whole group. And so people would pay like thousands of dollars to the cult to buy his hair and his spit and shit. Yeah, Shinko Ashura, yeah. Shoko Ashura, yeah. That kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, Shoko Asahara, sorry. I mispronounced that very badly. Yeah. I forget the name of the chemical, but that's essentially why they don't have rubbish bins in Japan anymore. They don't have them anywhere because they're afraid of the nerve gas attacks that happened in the 90s. Yeah. It was so Japan has a big cult problem. So I'm not surprised that went down. Yeah. I think, was it called Secret or something? It's now a chemical weapon that they're banned now because of how excruciating it is. Essentially, it's excruciatingly painful. It kills within 10 minutes, I think, of high consumption. So letting it loose on the trains, essentially, and in the rubbish bins surrounding the trains, just killed a whole lot of people. Yeah, I mean, like, they're justifying getting rid of abortion based on, like, oh, murder, it is murder. And I think, like, in their own opinions on, like, where life starts, like, they're getting rid of Roe versus Wade got turned over based on a fucking opinion, on an opinion on where life starts, without even thinking about the consequences for the mother at all. It's like, okay, buddy. It certainly is possible. Exactly. With the amount of like conservative like right revoking is going on. Oh, I'm currently living in New Zealand. No, not in Denmark. I don't have the accent. Why? I'm from New Zealand. Yes. Why would I sound like I'm from Denmark? I think no, but they're trying to get rid of it. Like in the same sentence that they were trying to like in the same court thing that they were trying to get that they got rid of abortion and essentially they said that same-sex marriage and interracial marriage as well and contraception, they're trying to get rid of all three of these things. This is the agenda that they're going for here. Contraception, interracial marriage, and same-sex marriage. They're trying to get rid of all this shit. These are the rights that they're trying to revoke. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, but like, it only takes one judge. It's my content suck. Sir, how many STDs do you have, sir? What's your STD count? It's okay. Let the chat know. If you think condoms are so bad, what's your fucking STD count? You gotta let us know now. How many children are you fathered to, sir? Gotta catch them all, baby. Yeah, that's the right attitude to have. Heck yeah. Gotta get all them lethal illnesses. Beautiful. I don't have checked. I mean, if you don't have any symptoms, I guess there's no need to, but like, don't be silly. Wrap your willy, you know? Safe sex is good sex. Safe sex is ideal sex. You know, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what the sex education is like in America. I imagine that it's very like different based on what state you're in. So, yeah. I don't know. I've heard in some states that they're just like abstinence, that's all you need to know, just don't, simply do not, and then you'll be fine, kind of thing. And it's like, sir, they're gonna do it anyway. At least tell them how to do it safely, please. And then in some states they have like the whole shebang, you know, you got the, I spend a lot of money on morning after pills. Ah, damn. That doesn't protect you from STDs though, or STIs as they are currently called now. STIs, not STDs. I think only a portion of STIs are actually STDs, because you have sexually transmitted infections, which is what they're called now, and sexually transmitted diseases, which are, you know, actual disease, such as like HIV and I think chlamydia as well might be a disease as well. It's just like specific classification kind of matters. Yeah, because preventing pregnancy isn't the only function of contraception, it's also preventing disease. So yes, tossing out all the fucking controversial opinions right now. I don't know what to do with you. It's like monkeypox. I don't know enough about monkeypox to comment on this shit, man. I don't know enough about monkeypox, damn it. My medical knowledge isn't there. No. Curses. No, but it's so sad, man. Fucking AIDS. It's so sad. I remember in the 80s there was a big thing with AIDS and it only being gay people, despite the fact that straight people were getting it too. And in fact, in today's society, like the majority of cases are straight people getting AIDS or an HIV infection. Yes, the majority of people in today's age who get AIDS are straight. It was back in those days gay people were overrepresented the population of people who got AIDS. It's like, it's propaganda. AIDS, like gay people getting AIDS was fucking propaganda. Which makes sense, because all the countries which you don't get laid that often. Okay, fine, sir, that's fine. But like especially in today's day and age, a lot of countries which don't have treatments for HIV or like preventatives, like that sort of thing. Everyone needs a little booty every once in a while, right, guys? Yeah. Who's that be right? Yeah. Get your dude booty, guy. You just go for it. Get that dude booty. Go for it. Get that pussy. Go for it. You go, you do. Do you, man? I'm losing it. My mind it's becoming lost. But like people like people criticize people who get HIV and shit, and people goes like, oh, it all comes down to the fact that they're gay. But people often forget that HIV, the virus like HIV, is actually the fastest evolving thing known to man. It is the fastest evolving thing known to man, and nobody comments on it. They're like, haha, gay disease. No, this thing's fucking terrifying. People have thousands of different strains in their own bodies at any given time when you have AIDS. It's just constantly evolving to the extent where they have to keep changing and like updating their medications because they can't keep up with it most of the time. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that's why we can't wipe out AIDS entirely, because it evolves so quickly that we can't eradicate it. Say vodka bottle, and that one. No, no, it's water, I swear. It's in a pump bottle. It's in a pump bottle. Like, surely, do you guys have pump in America? Or is it an NZ company? I think it's an NZ company, actually. You guys don't have pump, but it's like it's the New Zealand water company, I guess. No, we have American water. Best water. Yeah, of course. My inferior, pitiful New Zealand water cannot match your superior American water. I am so sorry. Had an arrowhead or a Dasani. Never had an arrowhead, but I have heard of Dasani because people make puns about it. But no, I've never had either of them. No, neither had either of those brands. I mean, this isn't even pump water. This is just tap water, which is inside a pump bottle. So I don't know. I'm not even a bottled water consumer at this point. I just drink tap water because they do so, and it's cheaper. Do you ever swim over to Australia? It's a bit too far, a bit lazy. I don't think I'd have had to do that swim, man. The Tasman's kind of rough, but New Zealand's fun. Never been to Australia personally, but their culture's semi-similar to ours, but their political system's kind of fucked over there. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, I guess. New Zealand's small. It's sort of funny, like whenever I look at when I was younger, I used to like look at YouTube channels and their subscriber counts, and I'm like, dang, that guy has a subscriber count that's 20 times my country's population. It's baffling. Or like, this guy has 5 times my country's population in their subscriber count, and I find that absolutely insane. Yeah, it's have I ever seen Aborigines people? Yeah, they like heavy metal music. I wouldn't know. I mean, they're cool people. Yeah, they have like really cool. They're actually very old culture. Like when you look at their like ancient art and shit like that, they've also got sweet music as well. Their history is like very, very dark in terms of like the colonization of Australia and that sort of thing. It's absolutely horrific. So if you want to make yourself sad, I guess you can look into that history if you want to. I don't know about heavy metal music. All I know is that I'm into heavy metal music. So if that's true, then they just have good taste. What can I say? They have good taste. It's okay. We kill minorities too. Yeah, I mean, I can't say that that Native Americans are much better off than the Aborigines. They're not much better off. What bands? I enjoy Bring Me. I guess not heavy metal. It's more just like hard rock metal sort of thing. Sound of Silence. Oh, Suicide Silence. Sorry, not Sound of Silence. And Sabaton. It's sort of like hard rock metal. Like I enjoy Bring Me the Horizon, Slipknot, the Japanese band called Cold Rain, Rage Against the Machine, that sort of thing. I like screamo stuff. I like listening to screaming. I think it's to make up for my lack of ability to scream as well, because I like screaming, but I can't do it very well. So yeah. How about baby metal? I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind when you say baby metal is the band Baby Beard. So I'm not entirely sure. The band Baby Beard, fucking hell. It's so funny. Like you have like I thought you listened to jazz or indie music. I mean, jazz is okay to listen to in passing, but it's not something that I like intentionally listen to. I can like enjoy it passively, I guess. Indie music, I do like. I'm a bit of a guitar whore myself. I do enjoy a bit of strummity strum and abstract lyrics time. That's the fun stuff about indie. But actually, I'm really into like rock, alt rock. I guess a bit of like hard rock metal and classical music. I'm a big classical junkie. I love classical music. It's so fun. big fan of Shostakovich and Rachmaninoff and Beethoven and Tchaikovsky's really good as well. I like screaming at pedestrians when I drive down the road. Hopefully not anything mean, but metal screaming, yeah, that sounds like fun. Gotta keep them alert, you know, make sure they don't walk in front of any cars. Gotta keep them on their toes sometimes, you know. Yeah, just gotta keep ahead of the times, man. I should really just change the title of my chat since now I'm just like chatting, like chatting over here. So I'm gonna change the title of my stream to "It's Random Combo Time," because we're not talking about Fitbits anymore. We're talking about like done. There we go. No, I'm not. No. Where are you from? Like fucking 2018? No. Heck you. Yeah. No. 2018 was a good time. I don't know. I mean, I guess it was before the pandemic. I was in high school, I think. Yeah, I would have been in like year 10. That's a fun time. To reminisce on 2010, not 2020, 2018, sorry. Remember the, yeah, I was barely into culture when that one came out. I had just graduated in 2018, graduated like high school or university. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Should be like 3, 4 years older than me, maybe. Oh, you're 2 years older. Oh, sweet. Yeah, but you don't know how old I am. The American education system is different. Oh yes, I'll respect I'll respect your experience, sire. Of course I will. Sounds great. Sweet. You're probably 20. Incorrect, sir. I am not 20 years old. Yeah, I'm 18. Good guess. Good guess. Yeah. No, we haven't. No, I started college, or university, as we call it here, at 16, sorry, at 18. At 18. I started this year, hence the paper. Like I said, I'm not doing my master's or anything. I'm just starting out, and this is a reading that I have to do, which is why I'm reading it to people because I find it interesting and I want to discuss it with people. Nice, barely legal, just how I like them. Nice and fresh, delicious. Mwah. No, in New Zealand, I'm not barely legal. I'm quite over legal, actually. Thank you very much. You're taking it all too seriously. Leave my fun, man. Let me have my fun. Now that team of smoking weed and hanging out. Look, I don't smoke weed, but I watch people smoke weed. I watch people smoke weed, and I trip sit. It's my favorite pastime, trip sitting. But yeah, I drink sometimes, you know, have fun time, get drunk, carry drunk people home, all the fun things in life. Yeah, I'm not barely legal in New Zealand, by the way. In New Zealand, our age of consent is 16. Thank you very much. So it's different here. Hoping for career and stuff. Recently, I've decided that physiotherapy would be like the best path for me personally, because it's like medicine, but with like better working hours and more patient contact. So it's like perfect mixture. Sorry. Yeah. So sounds like fun, and it's not an easy course to get into over here, but it's like not as competitive as medicine. Yeah, good course. Right, so that means that you're probably 22, elder. So fucking old, man. Why am I streaming to people that are older than me? This feels so strange. I guess since I'm reading like fucking academic articles and stuff, I'm gonna attract people that are older than me, I guess. I don't know. You sort of seem like a shit poster to me, so mm. Yeah, you're old. You're fucking old, man. What were you born in? Like fucking year 2000? Oh, the fucking 90s? Are you a 90s child? Are you even Gen Z if you're born in the 2000s? Yeah, that's right. Feel the nerve pain. Feel the joint pain. Turn of the century. Oh, so yeah, the year 2000. Nice, nice. At least it's easy to keep track of your age then. That sounds nice. Just think about what year it is, and that's probably how old you are. Yeah, I don't know. Being born in 2004 is a bit of a weird time to be. It's like, yeah, it's the best. Yeah, it's good to keep track of stuff, I guess. I mean, with it being born in 2004 is kind of weird because it's like sort of that weird in between. I guess I could do math and figure it out that way, but it's like, nah, it's fine. Okay. Mm. Yeah, I think I might end the stream soon just because it's getting. Just study engineering instead. No, nah, frick you. I'm not doing engineering. That shit's boring as fuck. I mean, I enjoy physics, but like the more like theoretical aspect of it, when you get to talk about theoretical physics and particle physics and like nuclear physics and stuff. That's really fun. It should be useful, but as an artist, I'm hoping that you said artist. You have untapped potential. Um, no, video is useful, but as an artist, you have untapped potential. Yeah, it's like but I enjoy looking after people like academically. I think I prefer academic stuff is all well and good, but overall I want a career that focuses on helping people, I want to have a more connection with helping people, which is why when I was younger I always wanted to either be a police officer or somebody who worked in like medicine. I'm making a mistake? No, I will never make a mistake in my life. I'm mistake prone. How dare you assume that I can make mistakes? And people yeah, people have said that to me before. This way, it would be excellent. Oh, okay. I mean, I'm not terrible at maths. I did do calculus all the way through high school. Same with physics, but nah. I'm not doing that shit again. Not as a fucking career. That shit's gonna be traumatizing. Why would I do that shit? I mean, like I said before, atomic physics and particle physics, like theoretical type physics, is fun. I enjoy that shit. The fuck then why physio? I mean, physio has like some math involved, I guess, but it's mostly about the care that you can give people, and that's what I want to orientate myself around. So, yeah. I mean, with physio, like you can diagnose people, obviously, with like all sorts of conditions. You can help with rehabilitation, which is what I want to look into. Your decision making must be impaired. I think everyone's decision making is impaired to some extent. I've done research into it. I made an educational decision. I recommend you get a therapist and get on some antidepressants. I think most people could heed by that advice. Not antidepressants though. I'm quite the opposite. I'm on anti-anxiety medication currently because my brain go burr sometimes. But a therapist might be nice, but shit's expensive. I'm broke. It is what it is. Which meds? I'm on beta blockers currently. So propranolol, I think. Propanol, something like that. It's just whenever my heart go brr, it stops it from going brr, essentially. So bupropion. Oh, that's another type of beta blocker, like two types. Yeah. Propranolol. I'll type out the actual name, like it's propranolol. This one. Yeah, I mean, bupro bupropion also works, but apparently that substance is more addictive, whereas like propranolol is like it's better for long-term use because it's less addictive and it's less damaging to your long-term health in general, so it's just better to take for extended periods of time. Not to mention, I'm not taking much of it. Well, how bad was your anxiety beforehand? Well, my type of anxiety is quite sporadic, so you get fluctuations in certain areas. Like for example, I'd have certain triggers which would set off panic attacks, and I'd have social anxiety, and those were my two main things that were going on. So it was less of a continuous thing, but more so something would happen, and I'd have like an accelerated heart rate, accelerated repressive rate, so like I'd be breathing a lot more. So essentially panic attacks but like long and drawn out a lot of the time. Sometimes they'd be short and it'd be terrible and I'd feel like I'm dying, but sometimes there'd be these long drawn out sections of like accelerated heart rate. So this helps with both of them, which is great. Yeah. Which is really funny because sometimes when I forget to take one, when I have accelerated heart rate, or when I have it like while I'm out and I don't have my meds with me, it's really funny when people take my pulse and they're like, "Why is it that high?" And I'm just like, I don't know. It is what it is. Like I went to donate blood a couple of weeks ago, and they check your pulse and your hemoglobin counts and stuff like that. So yeah, they were checking my pulse, and I was sitting there, and I was having a normal conversation with them, and they checked the pulse, and they're like, "Why is your pulse 120?" And I'm like, it was really fucking funny. And they were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is just how it is sometimes, my guy. It is what it is. They get chest tension and accelerated heart rate. So I take my pill, and it takes it down to a resting rate of like about 70, so it's fine. But sometimes if I focus on it enough, I can calm myself down and like get myself down to that level. But that involves disengaging with whatever I'm doing. So it's not exactly a good long-term method to use, especially if I'm in the middle of doing something. So it's just annoying, in all honesty. But it's fine. It's fine. I'll get over it eventually, maybe. It's fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't want to get on any like continuous anxiety medication either, because I'll always just forget to take it. And apparently, if you forget to take a pill, then it messes you up. So I'm not going to try that. Probably not getting over that. Yeah, I don't know. It's just so quirky. Um, I don't even fucking know. I've always been this way. Like I think if I'm thinking way back into my childhood, I guess maybe from like age 7 onwards, I sort of developed a crippling phobia of death, which meant that I'd have like panic attacks every night and I'd cry myself to sleep. That maybe triggered it. I don't know. And from that point onwards, my social anxiety, like my social interactions, got worse and worse. No friends, brilliant, for like a very, very long time. And then I got friends and things got a bit better. So that was nice. I do have to interact with people. Yeah, yeah. But when you are that young, it's sort of like you don't know how to tell your parents that sort of thing. Like I might have told them this in passing, something like, "Oh, I'm really afraid of this," and maybe they talk to me about it a little bit. But like with anxiety, it's like you can't really justify it. Like your brain just sort of spirals and like you can't get out of it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, very true. Very relatable. I can't pronounce your username, buddy. But yeah, very relatable. Fun stuff. But yeah, I mean it's just like it's in your brain. Like once you start on a thought pattern, it just like it keeps repeating over and over and over again. And like when you try and like lodge yourself out of it. And I had to develop those coping mechanisms by myself without the help of a therapist or guidance counselor, because I never told anybody. I tell anybody. Yes, the trauma of living in New Zealand. Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes, man. Living here is so traumatic, man. Every bird sets me on edge. They keep fucking scaring the shit out of me. I can't deal with it anymore. I just need to end it all. These birds are scaring me, man. They keep getting on my edge. I can't deal with it. Yeah. The trauma of living here, man. It's just too much. We aren't as good as America. It saddens me to my core. It makes me so anxious. The heroes are vicious. No, compare us to Australia. That is terrible. No. We didn't. Because that was just Australia's fucking problem. We weren't going to help them with that. Fuck those turds. No, they can fight their own bird war. We don't care about them. If you were America, this would never happen. Look, it's not our problem that they've got emus. It's not our fucking problem. They're dealing with their own bird war. They were like, oh dang, our crops are getting eaten by emus. What's the best way to combat this? Definitely not like building more restraints around them, or maybe like creating isolated spaces for emus, or maybe using trapping. That might have helped. No, bring out the whole military and trucks ablazing, forgetting that those things can run really fucking fast and barely do any damage. Brilliant work, Australian military. No, we didn't assist them in the Emu Wars. That was their own stupid doing. Yeah. Yeah, we aren't America, but you know, I don't know. I mean, eh. Australia is influenced by America a lot, so we essentially get like second America over here doing their thing, and we just watch them. We watch the chaos from a distance because we're so isolated. Yeah, it's really fucking funny most of the time. It's so over the top, just the culture in general with like America and Australia. I've never understood it. But that might also be because New Zealand's like the exact opposite. We're very minimalist, very like humble type country. We're like, oh, if you have a skill, you have to hide it, because if you're better than anybody else, you're an asshole. Well, Australia looks like a persistent rave party. Yeah, a racist rave party. Serving up bangers today, man. Yeah, I mean, Australia, they've got good beaches and shit, so that's nice. They got Bondi. Yeah, I'm a systems engineer from New Zealand. Yeah, really good, but also humble. Yeah. Yeah, we pride ourselves on the fact that we're humble with our shit. If you have a skill, you have to hide it or be humble about it. It doesn't matter if you've got a PhD in theoretical physics. You just say, oh, you know, I buzz around with the particles a bit, you know, all the fun stuff. Yeah. You don't say your qualifications. No, you simplify them to weird little words that don't really mean anything. Like, oh yeah, I rearrange people's organs sometimes. You know, I'm a bit of a slicer myself. You know, if you're a surgeon, that is. I don't cut people up. You know, it is what it is. That's just how we talk. We have this thing that we call tall poppy syndrome, which is when we cut ourselves down or other people down so that we seem to be all the same height. So nobody's better than anybody else, but that inadvertently makes people like not be able to express themselves or like be proud of their achievements either. So it's a double-edged sword. You get like everyone sort of like treating each other equally, but you also get people that are like, oh, I'm sad because my achievements don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things and I can't express that. Oh. Whereas in America, if you're good at what you do, you fucking tell everybody about it. You're like, yeah, I'm the greatest at this thing, and you can't take that away from me. That is the thing. That's kind of nice. That's one way to, yeah, make everybody as humble as physically possible, and nobody argues about who's the best. Because we're like, nah, you're the best, mate. And they're like, everyone's like, no, you're the best, bro. You gotta deal with it. Nah, you're better than me. Despite the fact that one might just be objectively better than the other. Okay, I'm okay at something and I talk it up everywhere. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, look at me. Look at that shot. I did so well. Look at me. I won that match of imaginary sport. I'm so good at D&D, guys. Look, I'm getting all these dubs, man. They keep coming. Like, we joke about being good at things. That's like the entire thing in New Zealand. We joke about being good at things, despite the fact that we might actually be good at things. It's ridiculous sometimes. Like, you get people who are like, "Oh, I'm so good at my job," it's great being the fucking best at shit, man. Like, in this tone, despite the fact that they are probably the best at what they do, but they're making light of it because of how we interpret, like, because of our culture. It's really funny. It's like, yeah, you are the best at what you do. Is that something that you need to express to us now? No, I don't know. It's quite backwards, but I don't know. It keeps everyone at the same height, you know. Eh, ironically, ironic bragging. Yeah, exactly. There's so many levels of irony. Yeah, humble brags. Humble brags are a big thing here. Humble bragging is a really big thing. Like, as a great band once said before they disbanded from the front lawn, they say they want everybody at the same height, but they really just want to see you on the ground. Um, yeah. Like, for example, a big thing with grades here, like, nobody tells each other their grades because you don't want the other person to feel bad about the grades that you got. No, no, no. And you got to make yourself seem as stupid as possible so that people don't feel bad about your intelligence. No, people can't know. They can't know. It's a secret. You can't let them know that you're good at things. Otherwise, they'll be sad about it because then they aren't as good as you. Yeah. Yeah, it's this whole cultural dynamic of like not wanting people to feel bad about you being good at something. What are my grades like? I'm not telling you. I am not telling you. I get C's and D's. Yeah, yeah, okay. So 70 to 80%. Yeah, that's pretty good. Good on you, mate. C degrees. I'm guessing A's. Eh, no, yes, no, a mixture. If that's the correct answer, I get a mixture of things. I'm better at some things than I am at others, you know? It's okay. If I'm gonna be realistic here, I have a B. To me, you're a nerd either way. Haha. Yeah. I have a B average, but I get like a sort of like a big selection of like A's and like sort of B minuses, so it sort of averages out to a B. So yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm a massive nerd. Thanks for noticing. Wonderful. Thanks for the follow, Christian, by the way. You're just probably listening to this discourse in the background. Like, feel free to participate. If you got something to contribute, I will also converse with you. Yeah, of course. It's almost fucking midnight here, man. Damn, it's pretty fucking late. Yeah. Reveal yourself. No. What do you mean reveal yourself? In what capacity am I revealing myself to? How? Like, reveal myself. How? It's 5 a.m. Nancy. Oh, 5 a.m. on America's like 13 hours behind. Or is it 20 something hours? I forget. You're a lot behind. Show me your eyelid. My eyelid. What do you want from me? What the fuck do you want from me? Thank you. I like my eyelids very much too. Actually, I don't, but like, I hate them very much. Thank you for asking about this. Ah, bruh. Man, Twitch commenters are weird as fuck, man. You guys are like a different breed of people. It's nice. It's nice. It's nice to get someone that I can joke with. Like the last two people that I had a genuine conversation with. Let's get pixels on the screen. Yeah, like NFTs. Yeah, the last time I had genuine conversations with people in my Twitch chat was like about the I think the first time it was about like movies and like mental health and stuff, and the other time it was actually on the article that I was discussing and that sort of thing. So it was like very intellectual conversation and that sort of thing. So it's fun having like a shit take conversation with you though. I'm just gonna call you Kino because that's what your username says. Or it could be Kino. And I'm gonna call it Kino because that's how we would pronounce it. Yeah. You have your moments? I'm glad you do. Everybody does. You have an Instagram? I do, but it's private, so you're never gonna find it. I do have a Twitter, which is where I post reminders that my YouTube videos have gone up if you want to follow that. But I post pictures on it. Come on. No, I'm not letting you in my personal life. No, I'm not letting you in. No. Gotta keep that parasocial barrier, you know? I'm out here. You're just a username to me. I don't know who the fuck you are. At least you can see my face and hear my voice and sort of like give you information about me. No, I'm not letting you. I don't know who the fuck you are, man. I don't even know your real name. You don't know my real name either, to be fair, but like, and not only this parasocial, nah. I might make an Instagram sometime in the future specifically for streaming. Maybe. Yeah, but I'm not letting you on my personal account. That shit's a no. That's a big no-no, sir. I wouldn't be able to reciprocate that, if you know what I mean. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to? At least you can, like, see what I look like. So I can understand some capacity you feeling that way, but how do you think that is for me? How do you think that even works? Sir, are you speaking my language right now? Come on, don't pull the fucking DILF card on me now. Don't pull the DILF card on me. So average white man, I'm assuming. Oh no, you're balding. Oh shit, man. DILF. Yeah. You look like Vladimir Putin, but your name is Obama. That's functionate. I can be a DILF. Do you know what DILF stands for? Do you have a child, sir? Are you a DILF? If you have a child, then yeah, you are a DILF. But if you're not, you're just by the acronym itself, you're not a DILF. University, you're just not. You're just not. You're right. You could have kids. I don't know. I don't know you. All I know is that you're 22. You could have kids. A friend of mine is dating somebody who is a 9-year-old, despite the fact that he's like 27. So that's kind of fun. So theoretically, you could have children. Yeah, I don't know you. You could have some children running around. And from the fact that you don't use condoms, there might be a few illegitimate ones running around as well. I don't know. Bruh. I can love combos like this sometimes, man. It's so fun. Yeah. No, I'm not giving you my Instagram. That shit's private. Look, okay. At some point in the future, I will make an Instagram for my Twitch account, so you can follow it. I'm not giving you it. No, fuck you. I'm not giving you it. I'm not, because I post personal shit on there. I don't want you knowing personal shit about me. That's weird. Do it now. No, fuck you. I'm not doing it. I really have to do it now? Oh, for fuck's sake. You're really gonna make me do this? Fine, I'll get a fucking Instagram. I don't have food pics on my Instagram, no. Is this like another route to get a fucking OnlyFans out of me? I'm not doing that shit, man. Feed pics? Consider, maybe. Perhaps, maybe. I don't know. No. Perhaps feet pics. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, I'm on Instagram right now. I will make an account. Fine. Ah. Um. Create a new account. Oh, damn it. People keep on using my fucking username. Bruh. Okay. Trying to find an available username on this shit is difficult. Ah. Oh, thank you for following. I'm not really doing anything. Hello, friend. Grrr. I'm doing good. I'm trying to fucking create an Instagram. This shit's impossible. I can't end with a period. What about a start with a period? What do you mean? uh, thank you, I guess. Fucking hell, man. Can't even create an Instagram account without people making comments about me, man. This is annoying as fuck. Uh, ah. Fucking hell. Trying to make a viable username. I'm not your girlfriend. Get that parasocial shit out of your brain before you become a stalker. That shit's not happening. No! Fuck you! Stop. This isn't consensual, man. No! This shit ain't consensual, man. No! Shut up. Stop trying to force me into something that I don't want to be in, man. Don't be confused. He's lying to you. I am not any part of this, man. I'm not going to be any part of this. This parasocial shit has to stop. You can't just force me into shit that I don't want to be in. That is not okay. That is not fine. No. No, I already get enough creepy comments as it is. I don't want you putting me in imaginary relationships, man. That ain't cool. This isn't fucking cool. Okay. Hmm. So you're alone, and are you? is fucking communism, man. I ain't a fucking communistic material. You can pass it around, dude. No, I don't want to be part of this gangbang. Stop it, please. Ah. Ah. Mm. Mm. I'm 28. Ah, let's try again. Are you a bot or not? Ooh, ooh. Some drama going on in the chat here, man. Drama, drama. Hmm. 420 cents. You guys are just creating your own discourse from the chat here, man. You don't need me. You don't need me. Ah, no. Okay. Beep boop beep boop. It means nothing to me. No. Find your own IRL girlfriend. I'm not going to be your fictional girlfriend. Okay, I have created an Instagram, and it's by the name of Invisible Islands, but I haven't posted anything to it. I will do so in the future, but not right now because I'm tired. So, yeah. There you go. There's the username. Fuck you. I created this entire thing, man. Fuck you. I spent all this time fucking making one, and you do this shit. Fuck you. Ah. It's okay. Well, it's there anyway if you change your mind again. I'll be adding shit to it later, I guess. Swag. I don't know. I might be getting a new microphone soon because this one is dog shit. So, that might be nice. Who knows? You might want those updates, sir. Swag? Yeah. Okay. But I'm fucking tired. I need to go to bed. I got a fucking lecture in the morning to get to. And I think you do as well. You know, is it like 5 a.m. where you are? Why aren't you sleeping? Why aren't you people sleeping, man? Night night. Mwah. There you go. Have a good night. Bruh.